Live electronic music is weird. Let's talk about it and continue to set up my upcoming free live stream concert as soon as I shout out today's patron. And that patron shout out goes to Scott McDonald. Thank you so very much for the support. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Beat Barn, everybody. I'm actually filming this video on the day it releases, so Monday the, 27th? July 27th? You've got just over 2 weeks, by the way, if you want to get your music submitted to be featured in Freebeat Live 2026, so be sure to keep working on that, or to get started working on it yet if you haven't. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just click the link in the description, watch the video, you can have your music featured in my upcoming show. Did you know that you can have your music featured in my upcoming free live stream concert, Freebeat Live 2026? It's super easy. Either watch the video linked in the description below, or simply read the instructions listed there as well. Everyone who submits a qualifying entry will be featured, so be sure to check out Freebeat Live 2026, coming Friday, August 21st at 7 p.m. Pacific, and Saturday, August 22nd at 11 a.m. Pacific for live music, giveaways, and more. Hope to see you there. Speaking of that show, it is finally time to actually start assembling the live set here on stage. I've done a ton of work behind the scenes, programming the songs into the SP404 Mark II, getting all the samples and passages programmed and dragged into the right pads, and getting effects set and things like that. As you can see, I've got pretty much nothing other than power hooked up right now, even down there on the pedals. And so I figured today it would be fun to plug things in and then maybe run through the very, very rough draft of one of the songs in the set. So let's do just that. First things first, I want to get the MC6 Pro plugged in and ready, because this is the MIDI brain of the entire setup. Although I guess before that we will plug in power for the SP404 Mark II and the SPD-SX. Next up, this is power for the Morningstar MC6 Pro, which just runs on USB Type-C if you want it to. The next thing to plug in is the Arturia Microlab, my MIDI keyboard controller for this show. This connects via USB Type-C, as you can see right there. Luckily, it does come with this handy right-angled cable, so we'll plug that in right there. And then on the other end of that, I've got a Type-C adapter. So we will plug that into the host jack here on the MC6 Pro. Okay, so now the MIDI from the Microlab is going into the MC6 Pro, and I actually have that routed to go out through the 5-pin as well as through the TRS output. So no matter where I need it to go, it'll go there. Now we're just going to take a standard 5-pin MIDI cable out the output of the MC6 Pro and route that all the way to the MIDI input on the SPD-SX. Then we're going to take another 5-pin cable here and go out of the MIDI out of the SPD-SX. On the other end of that 5-pin cable is a TRS MIDI adapter, and that's just going to go into the MIDI in on the SP404 Mark II. Now we just have one more connection to make, and that's with a 3.5mm cable from the TRS MIDI out on the TempoPad C16, and then we're going to plug that into the 3.5mm MIDI input on the side of the MC6 Pro. So the MC6 Pro is taking 2 MIDI inputs, one from the Arturia Microlab over USB, and one from the Synedo TempoPad C16 via 3.5mm TRS MIDI. Then both of those are going out of the MC6 Pro via 5-pin into the input of the SPD-SX. And then finally, at the end of the chain, we're going out of the SPD-SX into the 404 Mark II. And then we have one more connection to make, and that's to go into the trigger input on the SPD-SX and connect that through to the kick pedal down here. So why do I say live electronic music is weird? Well, as someone who comes from the world of traditional music, I've always played with a band. I'm a drummer, if you didn't know. The music kind of just happens, like it doesn't exist until you get on stage with your bandmates and make the music. With electronic music, it's a little different. You actually have to figure out what to prep beforehand, because you're not always playing music live, technically, you know what I mean? Like parts of my performance, and I know a lot of other electronic musicians do like to play things live, and I will be playing some keys and finger drumming and playing some pads here, and actually later in the set I'll be playing a full drum set. But it's this weird mix of figuring out, like, okay, At what point does the performance stop being you actually playing music and instead it's you chaining patterns together, or it's you messing with effects live in real time? It kind of changes the definition of what a live musical performance is, if that makes sense. You know, are you activating your looper and then just playing something once and letting it go, indefinitely? Are you playing a pre-looped pattern? Does that even count as playing live? I actually really struggle with that one because for a long time, I really didn't believe that just triggering a pattern and doing stuff over the top of it was live performance. And it wasn't until I actually sort of got interested in electronic music that I began to realize, oh, there's a lot more to it than just, you know, triggering a pattern, dancing around, waiting for it to finish and triggering the next one. There's a lot more going on. But so much of a live performance with electronic music is in the preparation, and so much of it is stuff that you just don't see. So it was a really weird mental hurdle for me to get over, and it's one that I'm still currently working on getting over, you know what I mean? There's also so much more work that goes into setting up a live performance. I mean, look at all the cabling we just had to do just to get things barely set up. And this was really nothing compared to what a lot of other people's setups are, although I'm just realizing I completely forgot about the Roland S1 down there. Luckily, this is a fairly easy setup. We just go out of the TRS output of the MC6 Pro and into the MIDI input on, there we go, the back of the S1. And then we need to plug the audio from the S1 into something, so we're gonna go into the line in here of the SP404 Mark II. And then the other end of that cable is just this stereo TRS adapter, and that's going into the mix out of the S1. There we go. Then finally, for the sake of simplicity, in this video, I'm just plugging my headphones directly into the headphone output of the SP404, and I'm using these Audio-Technica ATM30Xs, I think they are. I don't know, I have like 4 pairs of these. I love them, they're cheap and they sound really good. So now comes the struggle of trying to get all of this stuff to actually work together, right? So like I can hear the S1 in my headphones, but this isn't doing anything right now. So now I need to figure out the MIDI routing and wonder what the heck's going on there. So this is a great example of things that go on behind the scenes that just a normal like 3 or 4 piece, 5 piece band doesn't really have to worry about. You know, right now I'm making sure the MIDI channels are set properly. So the S1 is on channel 12. I just set the Microlab to channel 12. And now I hear the S1. Cool. So now I need to balance the levels going into the SP404 Mark II against the sample volume and all that. There's just so much going on. And you might think, well, that's just kind of a big pain in the ass then, right? And I mean, yeah, but at the same time, there's also a pretty big payoff for it because you get to essentially be a one-person band, which in my opinion is one of the coolest things you can do on stage. You know, at the end of the day, you pretty much get to make every single executive decision when it comes to your set and your music and how you want to perform it. So despite the process being pretty weird, especially if you're coming from the world of more traditional music performance, the freedom and flexibility, I think, is worth it. It's a fair trade-off for sure. So now the next thing we need to do is figure out how to get the SPD-SX to actually trigger the bass and drum backing sequence, which is just a sample that is 8 bars long and it doesn't loop or anything like that. It needs to trigger perfectly on the downbeat. I actually have this button down here on the MC6 Pro mapped to do it, but the timing is just a little bit off with these kinds of switches. It's not directly activating on the button press. It's like a millisecond late. So I would love to be able to map it to this kick pedal. That is of course going into the SPD-SX. So typically I like to start a new show on kit 50. You can see our foot trigger down there. When I hit it, it is showing as triggering. So now we just need to go menu and then kit and MIDI. And then we need to set our pad channel, which is going to be channel 5 because that's the channel that all of the forward banks or front banks on the SP404 Mark II are on. And then I believe the note number is 40. No, I don't know if you can tell, but that's actually triggering pad 1 in bank B. So let's count up. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. So we're going to set the note number to 48. I'm gonna bring the headphones by my microphone and hit this pedal. Hey, there we go. Nice, it's working. So then what I want to do is actually set one of the pedals on here to change over to the next patch. And as it does that, also send program change information to the SPDSX here. And then on kit 51, I'll map the foot pedal to start the section directly after the keyboard solo, just so I have a smoother time transitioning out of it. However, I don't think I'm gonna do that today. Instead, I think I'm gonna throw this camera on the tripod and try to get a very rough run through of this song without any of the bells and whistles, just to kind of give you an idea of where I'm at and what I'm working with. Let's do it. So there you have it. Electronic music is pretty weird, but it's worth the trade-off. It's worth all of the pre-show work and all of the pre-programming. We haven't even touched on the light show or integrating any of that yet. That's gonna come in these weeks leading up to the show, which we're less than a month away, so that's pretty exciting. Again, you've got until August 10th to submit your tracks for the community showcase. I've already gotten quite a few. Really excited to start editing those together into the video, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the tracks that come in. I do hope you found this video informative or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.